The blackened top floor facade was left behind by a deadly fire in New Zealand on Tuesday. The blaze scorched part of a hostel in the capital of Wellington and left several people dead. It began just after midnight at the 92-room Loafers Lodge in the suburb of Newton. Firefighters brought it under control hours later, and New Zealand's new Prime Minister Chris Hipkins arrived at the scene.
Obviously it's quite confronting, and also just to speak to the first responders who are on the scene in terms of what they dealt with when they arrived in the small hours of the morning. Clearly a traumatic situation for them. I know that they'll be feeling this at the moment. They've just had a crew change, so some of those people who were on the scene right at the beginning, they'll be getting a bit of a break now.
Hipkins added investigations would take place to find out what caused the fire.
In terms of some buildings, it's to do with the age profile of the building. The regulatory requirements around sprinklers do differ depending on the age of the building, and so there'll be an ample opportunity to look at that.
Authorities had officially confirmed a number of deaths by mid-Tuesday local time, but they expect the tally to rise, with several people still missing.
Email exchanges from inside the BBC, they talk about the risk of violating Indian laws. It's easier to rake up the freedom of speech debate, but does it give anyone a free pass to knowingly violate the law? America supports India because it needs India's support in return, and India is working with the US because it suits India's interests. This is how geopolitics works. Last night he diffused a crisis with his defense minister. But today Netanyahu was confronted with a new problem. His cabinet seems to have rebelled against him. The UK is looking at the Indian subcontinent to fill its coffers. That India seems to be negotiating from a position of power, like a partner and not a former colony. The US and Russia are dangerously close to an armed conflict. This year, 2023, New Delhi will be the capital of global diplomacy. For a country as diverse as ours, with 88% of the population illiterate, it was a very big deal to write a constitution, and that too, the world's largest. Meanwhile, if we may, here's a Republic Day gift from India for the BBC. A list of suggestions for the BBC for their upcoming documentaries. Number 1, the Kohinoor and the colonial loot. Number 2, an outdated monarchy and unhealthy obsession with the royals. Number 3, racism in 2023. We're waiting.